Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, it's probably going to be a little bit more of a rant than I'd normally like it to be, but it's something that I believe aggravates everybody. And it is, things are starting to come to a head. And I guess we'll just start with it. This is an article on, of course, as you can see, Bounding into Comics by Spencer Baculi. Tomb Raider remasters will remain uncensored and instead feature performative disclaimer condemning harmful impact of original games. In a move that, while an admitted step in the right direction, still signals that the Western video game industry is still much too focused on performative activism than it should be. Crystal Dynamics has announced that though their upcoming remasters of the first three Tomb Raider games will release completely uncensored, they will also feature a disclaimer decrying the harmful impact the series has supposedly had on players. Spoilers, it hasn't had any. The only harmful impact that I could think of that it has had on any players was teenagers whenever they first released that spent their time trying to make Lara Croft crawl in all sorts of tight places, trying to get camera angles so that they could find some amusement in it. We'll put it that way. As discovered by series-centric news outlet Tomb Raider Chronicles, a day ahead of the remastered trilogy collection's February 14th release, upon booting up the game for the first time, players are presented with a one-time disclaimer informing them that the games in this collection contain offensive depictions of people and cultures rooted in racial and ethnic prejudices. These stereotypes are deeply harmful, inexcusable, and do not align with our values at Crystal Dynamics. The Marvel's Avengers developer, Mea Coppola, I hope I pronounced that right, continues. Rather than removing this content, we have chosen to present it here in its original form, unaltered, in the hopes that we may acknowledge its harmful impact and learn from it. No, screw you. Though the developer did not provide details as to which specific cultural depictions they felt warranted such a warning, an educated guess suggests it was made in reference to the various local enemies encountered by Lara Croft through her first three adventures, and more specifically, the Polynesian tribesmen, enemies depicted in Tomb Raider 3 Adventures of Lara Croft. If they're bothered by this, these people probably have had a stroke the moment that they turned on green hell and got attacked by the natives. As noted above, there's no doubt that this is an absolutely embarrassing moment of political virtue signaling from Crystal Dynamics. Look no further than their use of the emotionally charged yet appropriately vague term harmful impact to describe their supposed issue with the games. Visual representation. Has any single individual ever truly suffered harm as a result of this game's use of tribal aesthetics on some of its enemies? The answer, categorically, is no. Otherwise, wouldn't some news outlet have covered such a story? After all, with video games, real world harm, and sexy female protagonists, it's got all the makings of a ratings boosting moral panic. However, as also noted above, this is a step in the right direction for the video game industry as a whole, as players are no doubt aware of, as more and more games have received remasters or remakes in recent years, so too have more and more developers taken to sanding off the edges from the source material in an effort to make it appeal to wider audiences that don't exist. Look no further than the upcoming Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Not only is such an act a disservice to the artistic vision of the given title's original creative team, but It's also infantilizing to audiences, as the presentation of such a tut-tut implies that audiences are either too dumb to separate the real world from the fiction or too fragile to handle anything outside of their bubble, which, while an apt description of the terminally online this warning was obviously made for, does not apply to the other 99% of players who are capable of thinking, of critical thinking, also thinking and breathing at the same time. To this end, presenting the game in its original form while also appeasing said activists with such sad warnings is objectively a better outcome than butchering their content in difference to modern sensibilities. Of course, this does not mean the pushback and criticism of such warnings should come to an end. Rather, it signals a slight hope that developers may be getting at least somewhat sick of social media's emotional pearl clutching. One can only hope. Notably, Tomb Raider 1 through 3 Remastered appears to be the second collection title to display such a warning amidst the entertainment industry's current censor heavy ecosystem. Last April, much to the joy of many a franchise fan, Capcom took a similar path with their release of the Mega Man Battle Network. However, rather than attempting to claim its contents had ever harmed anyone, the disclaimer instead described them as insensitive. Capcom values diversity and inclusivity within its games and its community. Please be aware the games in this collection may contain some cases of insensitive cultural depictions that are presented as originally created to preserve their authenticity. They're bloody robots in a game. They're pixelated robots. Whatever. It only gets worse from here, though, although that is kind of a hopeful sign that they're just putting a quick warning at the beginning. One day I hope we'll see those gone. Now, here's a different article. Now, this article is from the New York Post, written by Kyle Smith. It was done August 14th, 2020. But there is some relevance to now. Ridiculous trigger warning for Blazing Saddles shows how far culture has gone off the rails. Say kids, did you know that Blazing Saddles is an overt, audacious spoof on classic westerns? Well, now you do, thanks to the trigger warning that has just been slapped on the movie by HBO Max, which hired University of Chicago professor Jacqueline Stewart to set things up for anyone who might be clicking on the Mel Brooks comedy they were in thinking they're in for Swedish drama about lingonberry harvest. Whatever that. I hope I pronounced that right. I don't even care. Stewart informs us that the movie features racist language and attitudes, but those attitudes are espoused by characters who are explicitly portrayed here as narrow-minded, ignorant bigots. The film's real and much more enlightened perspective is represented by the two main characters.
No shit, Sherlock.
You don't say Stewart's intro should be called Blazing Obliviousness, since everyone already knew all of that and always has for the 46 years, now 50 this year, the movie has been in release. Next week, HBO Max will gravely inform us that the Springtime for the Bad Mustache Band from Germany musical in Brooks, the producers should be should not be construed as a celebration of the Third Reich. and that the song and dance number about the Spanish Inquisition in Brooks' History of the World Part 1 is not meant to glorify the practice of disemboweling non-Christians. A few years ago, conservatives who pointed out worrying or silly campus adventures in speech modification and idea policing were told, relax, it's just college kids. Why do you care? Less than a decade later, Andrew Sullivan was able to write a column titled, We All Live on Campus Now, and everyone knew he was exactly right. Ridiculous, unnecessary trigger warnings are getting plastered all over everything. Realtors are afraid to use the term master bedroom, but HBO Max seems to think we all live in kindergarten. What kind of melonhead doesn't realize the purpose of the slurs in Blazing Saddles is to make the racist look bad? We don't need this explained to us unless we just arrived on this planet from a faraway star system or attended Oberlin. When director Mel Brooks brought in a hot young black comic named Richard Pryor to help punch up the script, Pryor vigorously added in more uses of the N-word to make the movie sharper as well as funnier. The slurs power to wound. Pryor may be more responsible than any other person for neutralizing the slurs power to wound. We'd probably all be better off if the word were restored to its place in the 1970s, when it was largely robbed of its mystical properties. Now that it's unsayable, it's become scary again. There's a reason no comic ever starts his set by saying, the following remarks are jokes, and I will sometimes say things facetiously. Nobody wants to have the comedy parameters laid out in advance, especially by a humor-challenged professor. HBO Max, which earlier this summer appended a similar trigger warning to Gone with the Wind, is not telling its subscribers anything they don't already know, but it is giving them some useful thumb exercise as they all cringe and activate the skip function. It's ridiculous, as they point out in this, and this was 4 years ago, almost. And on a side note, in April, they're showing in theaters for the 80th anniversary. They're doing Gone with the Wind. In September, for the 50th anniversary, they're showing Blazing Saddles, both of which I intend to go to, and I recommend everybody go to it. At least Blazing Saddles. But Gone with the Wind is actually a good classic. It's not something everybody would enjoy, but you probably won't get another chance to do this again. And take advantage of situations like this when you can. All right, time to move on to the next article. Now, this article is more than 4 years old, I understand, but I'm bringing these older articles in to kind of highlight the stupidity that was going on then and is still being affected now in things like the Tomb Raider article, where they feel the need to put the content warnings on games, which they're still putting on shows and games and stuff like that. And it's really ticks me off. But this is from November 13th of 2019. This is written by Lizette Voitico, I guess. I'm sorry for butchering your name. Here are 5 movies Disney Plus put cultural warnings on. Top line: as Disney Plus continued to stream its archive of beloved movies and TV shows to its new nearly 10 million users, viewers discovered in a sign of the times that disclaimers, warnings of outdated cultural depictions have been added to a number of its classic animations. Here are 5. Dumbo from 1941 contains a scene of a group of cigar-smoking crows with their leader named Jim Crow, referring to the racist segregation laws of the South and voiced by a white actor. Peter Pan, 1953, has been criticized for the way its Native American characters were portrayed, including when they sing the song What Made the Red Man Red, and for the way white characters appropriate headdresses and apparel. Then you got Lady and the Tramp from 1955, features a pair of Siamese cats that sing the Siamese cat song in stereotypical Asian voices. Then you have The Jungle Book from 1967, has been criticized for its orangutans, which are seen as racist caricatures of black Americans. Dear Lord. Everybody loved King Louie. And you have the Aristocats from 1970. Has also been condemned for its Siamese cat, which plays the piano and talks about Asian food in a stereotypical accent. Disney did not immediately respond to requests for comment on the disclaimers. What to watch for? Some Disney Plus movies also have tobacco usage warnings, including the 3 Caballeros, Pinocchio, Hercules, and The Sword and the Stone. Although TV and movies have had drug use warnings for decades, 2019 has seen an all-time high in teen vaping. Key background: the pinnacle of Disney's problematic movies would be 1946's Song of the South, set in the post-Civil War years below the Mason-Dixon line, despite winning an Oscar for the song Zippity Doo Dah. Song of the South was resoundingly panned by National Association for the Advancement of Colored People for its impression of an idyllic master-slave relationship. It has remained off the market and unavailable for over 30 years. You can, however, catch the song and some of its movie characters at the Splash Mountain ride in Disney's Florida, California, and Tokyo theme parks. Not anymore. They removed those, which I find rather insulting. Tangent. Twitter users pointed out that Warner Brothers, which owns Looney Tunes, has its own share of racist content and acknowledged it with a stronger warning than Disney, but without editing cartoons, stating they are being presented as they were originally created because to do so otherwise would be the same as claiming these prejudices never existed. Look, they barely bring this up in here. They bring up the song, but they don't bring up the important part of the Oscar. And we're going to get to that. I mean, you got Song of the South, which, if you get a chance, watch it. You may or may not like it. I believe you would. But they talk about the kindly storyteller, Uncle Remus, tells a young boy stories about trickster Brer Rabbit, who outwits Brer Fox and slow-witted Brer Bear. Now, you have the cast here, and the most notable is James Baskett, Uncle Remus. The reason he's the most notable is because, and we're going to go over to this, you have James Baskett, born 1904, died 1948. Born in Indianapolis and trained as a pharmacist, Baskett turned his attention to acting and appeared in several movies in the 1930s and 40s aimed at black audiences, including Harlem is Heaven, 1932, with the great tap dancer Bill Bojangles Robinson, The Policy Man, 1938, Gone Harlem, 1939, Straight to Heaven, 1938, Comes Midnight, 1940, and others. He had also appeared on Broadway in 4929 with Louis Armstrong in the musical review Hot Chocolates, and supplied the voice of Fat Crows in Dumbo, but he is best known for his 1946 role as Uncle Remus, Walt Disney's live-action/animation movie Song of the South, and especially for his beloved song Zippity Doo-Dah, for which he was presented an honorary Academy Award in 1948, the first black male actor to receive an Oscar, yet due to segregation he was unable to attend the movie's premiere in Atlanta. They mention the song in the other article, but they completely skip over the fact they are basically erasing the man that won them the Oscar. They're erasing the fact that this man, who was very talented and had a great voice and had one of the most memorable songs out there from any animated movie, he was the first black male actor to receive an Oscar, and you completely got rid of it. You want him gone. You, Baskett also appeared in the radio broadcast of Amos and Andy as the lawyer Gabby Gibson from 1944 to 1948 before succumbing to diabetes and a heart attack. He was survived by his wife and mother and is buried with his father as noted on a simple headstone. Cemetery records indicate another Baskett family member, Susie, was buried on the lot in 1918, but she does not have any monument. The black granite monument picturing him as Uncle Remus was placed there in 1981 through the efforts of an admirer, Thomas Lyons. It, they, it's just insulting that they erased him, and that's literally what they're doing by completely getting rid of him like that. By even just this article, they refused to. They didn't even say who sang the song. They didn't even say who caused him to get the Oscar and why it's noteworthy. This is a piece of cinematic history. It's a piece of cultural history. It was an important thing. And it's just insulting that you have trigger warnings on everything. They're at this point, I'm surprised that we don't have them on. Well, we do have them in books. We have them in books. When you get reprints, we have them in comic books. We have them in our movies. We have them in our TV shows. We even have them on songs. We have them in video games. And Disney. There's other things that they could probably be upset about. I mean, it's one of those things that, besides being offended by, besides they may be offended by that, but how about one of the things you couldn't show. Disney really won't even show a lot of their old war cartoons, and they were funny. They were good, and from them you actually had a song that popped up in one of them. It was one with Donald Duck in it, and I am really going to say that it it had a song that was so catchy that they used it in MASH. In just in one brief moment, Hawkeye sings it in MASH, and it was in a Donald Duck cartoon from that was made during World War II.
When the Führer says wie is the master race, wie heil, heil, right in the Führer's face.
And that is just we can't let this keep happening. I understand that what they're saying back in this article that it is an improvement that they're just doing a warning like this instead of shaving it off. But how many other games have they decided to go through and butcher? Because, oh no, it might offend somebody. I don't care. I really don't. You're taking beloved games, beloved movies, beloved books, all these things, and you butcher them for an audience that isn't there. You're saying you're making it for a modern audience. How's that worked out for you? They make they make Disney movies now for a modern audience, and basically over the last year we've seen the year of the flops from Disney, where they've lost a whole bunch of money. They've even lost a whole bunch of subscribers on things on Disney Plus. Um, I mean, notably, probably the biggest success as far as anything streamed, as far as a show or series, as far as a series streamed, of all the platforms, probably the most surprising one to hit as a successful thing was, in my opinion, One Piece on Netflix when they did the live action One Piece. Um, it shocked me in more ways than one because one it was a live action of an anime, and those generally don't turn out too well. And two, it was done by the people that made the god awful live action Cowboy Bebop. But I'm just continuing to go. I need to stop here. If you've made it this far, I thank you very much for watching. And if you found this video entertaining, please leave a like and maybe consider subscribing if you think it was worth it. Either way, I hope you have a pleasant evening, day, or whatever it is for you. And I will catch you in the next one.